All right, we are so hyped to welcome back onto the program our favorite Texas Tech alum, one of the best up and coming scouts and analysts we got in our sport. Seriously, if you don't already follow him, go follow him. We'll throw out where you can follow him here in a second or at the end of the episode at the very least. An editor at The Athletic. We got Tobias Bass rejoining us, coming back onto the program. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming back. I think that, hey, the last time we spoke was all the way back in May. And a lot's
Mm,
changed since then, man. How's everything
yes.
been since May?
It's been good, man. Just we talked earlier off air, but just I'm glad basketball is back, man. I really missed just going to games, seeing what's going to unfold, seeing what's going on with the transfer portal, high school recruiting, etc. So college basketball is in full sports, and I love it. I'm just happy it's back.
Yeah, me too. I think we all are. And like you said, it's full swing, right? It's not like
Yeah,
late October, even pre-Thanksgiving where teams are sort of feeling each other out. We've had some heavy hitter games, and
yeah.
we're gonna get into some of those. But this past Saturday, man, that was a hell of a day, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was at LSU, Texas, A&M, Houston. The A&M Houston game was unbelievable, especially in the second half. I thought Houston, they were up, I think, 13, 15 points at one point. I thought they were going to run away with it, but, Wade Taylor, he pretty much carried that team at the end. I think he finished with 32.
He's a
And he
bad
almost, I
man.
mean, he is. I thought he was going to win them the game. He took a contested step back three. I thought he was going to drop in there, with like a second left, ended up rolling out, but they had a chance to win that game. But that was a crazy game. I'm glad I was there for that one.
I don't think I was going out on a limb for this one. I'm not going to be patting myself on the back preseason because I think I had picked Wade Taylor to win Conference Player of the Year there in the
Yeah.
SEC. And I mean, Texas A&M's interesting, right? Like
Yeah,
they got the talent. I mean, Buzz Williams is a great coach, and the SEC is a tough conference, but they had a bit of a dip. Like I think they started the season somewhere around 14, 15. Now they're hovering top 25. There's no shame whatsoever in losing to Houston. But Texas A&M is an interesting team, and the last couple seasons, right? Like 2 years ago, Buzz was pissed they didn't get in. Last year
yeah,
they did get in, then they got washed by Penn State. They're a
yeah.
weird team to try and figure. I can't figure them out, I guess.
They're interesting because it's I think it's the way that they play. So for starters, they're missing two starters. Boots Radford is hurt, and Julius Marble, he's having some other issues. He hasn't played. So they're missing. Those are two of their top three players. So they do look a little bit different than they expected. But I think what's interesting about the team, I think it's just the way that they play. So they basically have two guys predominantly on the perimeter that can score, Wade and Boots. Everyone else is either a 3 and D or a high volume offensive rebounder. So it's like Wade and Boots, you guys are gonna have to score 40 points a game, roughly, generally speaking. The rest of our points are gonna come from free throws, offensive rebounds, and putbacks, basically. So, you know, that game the other day, that now they're very good defensively. They're going to be times where they're just going to be able to get stops, and it's going to be nice for Wade is just special like he was the other day. But sometimes, if Wade's having a off night or Boots is having an off night, they're going to really have to rely on the defense, and they play kind of slow. So a 6 point deficit may feel like 12. So they have to really time of possession, getting good shots every single possession is going to be a big key for them. And I think that we've seen in some of their losses that one of them maybe having an off night or they're not able to physically just beat up teams, they've struggled so far. But when they get their guys back, I think they'll be
Yeah, and that's what you see this time of year, starting that sort of attrition period, right? Like
fine. Yeah,
December, January, February, dudes are going to be hurt. Nobody's 100%.
yeah.
You just hope you can limit that. Hey, do me a favor though, Tobias. If you see Wade Taylor, if you see Texas A&M again, let him know that I apologize for accidentally tagging his dad in a tweet where
Mm,
I said Wade Taylor was going to win SEC Player of the Year. I tagged the third. I should have gone. I meant
mm.
to tag the fourth.
Does dad respond?
He did. He DM'd me. He was like,
Yeah,
"Hey, by
yeah,
the way, you meant to tag this guy."
yeah. No, his dad's a great dude. Really, really, really great guy.
Yeah. Hey, what's new in your world though? Like I said, last time we spoke in was in May. So anything new with the job? Anything new at the Athletic? Any new developments? Any projects you're working on? Update us, man.
Projects. I'll probably have some stories coming out soon. One story I'm thinking about tapping into is kind of seeing So with the transfer, I want to redo my transfer portal story because last year I did one that had a bunch of stats in there about kids transferring up, down, or wherever in between. I kind of want to look at it from the standpoint of there's a lot of a lot of high school kids when they go to college, everyone wants to play high major ball, which I understand, but the difference between mid major and high major nowadays isn't a big difference. And we're seeing I don't know if you saw my tweet today, but the difference between like the minutes is like insane. You'll get like the 25 percentile true freshman. He's averaging about this is last year. He averaged about 3.6 minutes. He played 10 games. That fringe high major kid, if he goes mid major, he'll in the 75 percentile, he'll play 15 minutes a game, 25 games played. So the jump, he's times his minutes times five, and if he's a 90 percentile kid, he's playing 23 minutes instead. So the point to wrap all that up is I think that some of the kids they need to understand you can go mid major first, and if you're good enough, you're gonna be able to transfer high major in a year or two. Happens every year, happens all the time. And some of these guys are pros, like Brandon Pozomiski last year at Santa Clara. He went to Illinois. He didn't play a second. He goes to Santa Clara for 2 years. He's a first round draft pick. Dalton Connect was at JUCO, Northern Colorado. He's going to probably be a first round draft pick this year. So there's not. I would have no issue going to a mid major. And I was trying to tell some of the kids, some of these mid majors, the way they travel, operate, and run things is pretty similar to a high major.
It's crazy to think about. I always marvel at this, Tobias, like just taking a step back, just as the evolution and the landscape of college basketball and how much it's really changed from a lot of different perspectives. Like
Yeah,
when I first started watching the sport, right? You talk about a guy like Zach Edey in the early 2000s, late 90s is probably a lottery pick in the NBA.
definitely,
Now, this is no
definitely.
disrespect to Zach Edey, but he's not slotted at that in today's
Yeah,
NBA. But the point that I'm making is like the positions change, the value of those positions change,
yeah,
how you acquire personnel through the transfer
yep,
portal now and NIL, as opposed to, well, back in like the 2000s, if you transferred, that was probably a red flag for a lot of people being
yeah,
like, does he have a
yeah,
bad attitude? So all of this is so interesting to see. And to get to your point about transfers and starting off at a mid-major school, and if you then want to take that next leap to the high major, that's fine too. Or even like you said, Pajemski, vice versa. There's so many different avenues. And Tobias, I want to get your thoughts on the ruling that occurred. I think it was last Wednesday now
hmm
regarding the transfer portal. Uh, General thoughts on that? Are you happy that these kids aren't going to be essentially punished for playing during this 2 week period, and just your overarching reaction to what's going on?
I, I think it's interesting. So like you look at UNLV. I think that game they got their players back. I think when they played Creighton,
Brayton.
I would be pissed if I was Creighton because they you're getting 2 to 3. And they got whooped. They got smacked. So you kind of come in. You probably heard some rumors or whatever. The game shows that they have 2 to 3 players you weren't expecting. They look like a formidable team. They were super long, athletic. They didn't care. They looked like they could maybe win that. Granted, they doubled back the game later, ended up losing. But at the time, maybe it was just a flash in the pan. But they looked legit. So if I'm a team, you know, I'd be kind of pissed if they have like a dude and he's been sitting out. Like it didn't really matter. But LSU played Texas. They got Jalen Cook. He didn't play the game all year. So they got their starting point guard back. He ended up leading them in scoring for LSU, and it didn't matter because Texas was legit. But if they lose that game, it probably would have been a lot to do to Jalen Cook's hand. So I would if I'm the team that's benefiting, I would love it. But if I have to play a team that's getting a kid, I'll probably become a pissed.
That's so funny, Tobias. I've never thought about the other end of the spectrum where you're supposed to be prepping for these teams. And we hear it
Yeah,
all the time in all sports. Like if someone's questionable on an injury report, and this isn't an injury, but if someone's
yeah,
questionable to play and you're like, are you prepping for this is just an example, like Aaron Rodgers or Tim Boyle, right? For the Jets, you're like, no, we're gonna prep for Aaron Rodgers. But in the back of your mind, you're
yeah,
like, we got a damn good shot because Tim Boyle's playing.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
really think about like, dang, I didn't think Jalen Cook would be suited up here, and then this just
yeah.
changes our whole scouting.
Yeah, everything changes everything. And then sometimes you make it, and then the Jalen Cook, for example, he's been practicing all year, so it's not like he's out of shape or coming back from injury. He's just been sitting there waiting to play. So he may even, and a player like that, he kind of gives the team a little bit an extra jump because we got our guy back, or a team, like man, if we had our point guard, we would be really good. Well, he gets to play now, so there might be some games where we might not win these games. We might be able to win a couple of these games we weren't supposed to, at least for these 2 weeks. We'll see what they do going forward, though.
Yeah, Tobias, I'm really excited to read that piece of yours. Let us know when it's about to drop, and all the research that you're doing, I'm sure, is really interesting. So I appreciate the update. Before we dive into what's going on in the current college basketball landscape, tell us about some of the games that you've been to thus far this year. I know, obviously, last Saturday you mentioned the matchups that you were able to go to. Anything else this year?
I've only been another game. I went to U of H. They played Corpus Christi. I've been to a bunch of high school games, but when Big 12 play and SEC play starts, I'll be there. I'll be at Texas Tech at Kansas. I'll be there when they play UCF. I'll be at U of H, Kansas State, and then a couple of those U of H games because I live in Houston. So I'll be at majority of their bigger games, and I'm probably going to try to travel to go to Knoxville to watch Tennessee catch a game, and I'll be at A&M as well to catch them play a couple of teams as well.
That'll be good. That'll be good. That
Yeah,
that Tech Kansas game is interesting to me, right? Like,
yeah.
have you been to Allen Fieldhouse before? Are you gonna wear your Red Raider red?
It's actually in Lubbock. Thankfully for
Oh,
my
it's in.
Red
Oh,
Raiders.
okay. My fault.
Yeah, it's in. I have not been to Allen Fieldhouse. I want to go really bad because I heard that place is like unbelievable, especially when it's packed and loaded. So I do want to try to get up there and go catch a game at some point. Maybe not this year, but at some point soon.
You mentioned Kansas State too. They've okay. So I tweeted this the other day. I forget who they just got smoked by Nebraska. That's who it was at home.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just been a little bit of a disjointed, clunky. I don't even know if you want to call it start here as we approach January. We're approaching halfway through the season, but thus far, it's just been to me a bit clunky and disjointed. And the Naquan Tomlin stuff obviously didn't help, which
Yeah.
occurred in the offseason right before the season started.
Yep.
Tyler Perry's a great player, but it seems as if there's still a bit of an adjustment period going on. But Jerome Tang, for my money, I was looking at Tyler Perry and Arthur Kaluma to fulfill that Noel and Keontae Johnson role. So it's just been a bit disjointed, and I'm a little surprised at the slight struggle. Should I be surprised at this, Tobias, or no?
I guess for them, they're another team. Injuries and the Naquan Thomas thing screwed them. Quez Glover is probably their third or fourth best player. He hasn't played a game. He did something to his foot. He'll probably be back in like another 3 weeks or so. Naquan Tomlin hasn't played a game. So you lose a quality starter in Glover and you're losing the potential, well, he would have been a draftee in Tomlin. So when you have those two guys out, kind of sucks. And, during the transfer portal time, there were a couple of dudes that they wanted that they didn't get. Tucson at Texas Tech. I think he would really help him. I think he leads Tech in scoring right now. I think like 15 a game. They wanted Wagyu that was at Bama. They were really close to landing both those guys. The pendulum kind of swung. They didn't get them. So they got some dudes late. Yeah, Will McNair, they got him super late. So they got a little bit different type of player, but it doesn't surprise me. I think everyone was so surprised by Kansas State last year. They kind of took some people off guard. They were expecting it to be the same. It's hard. It's hard, man. And like you said, Perry's really good, but I don't know if he's like the little guy they had last year. I don't think he's the same player. I don't know
Yeah,
if Alpha Kaluma is like Keontae Johnson. I don't think so. Good players, but it's just a little different.
for sure. And so I think what you said is important because expectations, and this is a credit to what Jerome Tang has done. So again, entering last season, nobody thought that they were really going to be a tournament team.
Mm-mm.
Everyone thought that it could be difficult for Jerome Tang to step into a head coaching role, despite the fact that he's had plenty of years on a championship level team at Baylor. But nobody thought that Kansas State would be one of the big and significant contributing factors as to why the Big 12 was the best conference last year and even entering this year, right? Like, I don't think anyone thought that they'd be a key cog in that. They thought Kansas State would just be, a team that some of the others would feast on. They go all the way to, I believe, the Elite Eight, right? Keep me honest there last year. And then,
Yeah.
they're actually not having a bad season
Yeah,
thus
they're
far.
not.
It's
They're
just
not. Yeah.
you expectations already rise like crazy after last year. And I think entering this year, you're right, Tobias, like maybe Tyler Perry and Kaluma aren't necessarily Noel and Johnson, but I think that was at least my expectation there.
Yeah, and then to be fair too, they're playing three freshmen big minutes. I think all of them are playing 11 minutes or more. One of them plays 24, and Day Day Ames. Michaela Rich plays like 15. Then R.J. Jones plays about 12. So they're playing freshmen, maybe out of position, maybe more minutes than they expected because of the Quez Glover and Thomas thing. Then to their schedule's been kind of hard. You open up with USC, Providence, Miami, or Roberts isn't bad. They'll probably maybe make a tournament in their league. Villanova, LSU. They play quality teams. So and they got Wichita State, who also isn't bad on Thursday. So their schedule's been hard, and I know Tango get those, but they just have to get better. And you're playing three freshmen. No freshman should be judged in the first half of the season, so those guys will get better.
A lot of hoop left. And so Kansas State was
Yeah,
probably the most surprising team, certainly at this juncture of the year last year. I think they might have still been undefeated. Don't quote
yeah.
me on that, but they were certainly the most surprising team at this juncture last year. Tobias, want to get your thoughts on this year's most surprising team and or teams, plural, in your estimation.
Um, it's early, but Oklahoma, they're undefeated. They're 10-0. They brought them to
Top
the play.
seven.
I didn't. Yeah, there's yeah. That's when is the last time? Maybe when Trey Young was there. I don't even know if they were ranked that high when he was there, but
I was going to say like Buddy Hield, maybe.
yeah, they're probably Buddy Hield, Blake Griffin, yeah, around that time. So they've been good. I'll even say Kentucky. Kentucky, they're playing basically all freshmen, and majority of them are. They just got back Big Aaron. So they've been playing pretty much without a big or bigs all year. So I think that was surprising that Reed Shepard and Rob Dillingham played so well. And I don't think really people really expected that. Yeah, Reed Shepard, he'll probably be a lottery pick maybe if he keeps playing the way that he's playing. They've been surprising. James Madison, good for them. They're 10-0. I would not want to play that team come March
Is
at
James
all.
Madison is it lazy of me to say that? And my mind immediately goes to them just being this year's College of Charleston.
Might be, could be. They're good. I mean, and granted, they're another team benefited from the transfer portal. I think they're second or third leading scorer. He came from Boston College, so he's played high major basketball in the past couple of years. Just Bickerstaff. So they're a good team. I think Memphis is legit. Memphis is really good. And then Ole Miss is undefeated. They're 10-0. So there's been a bunch of surprises so far. And Clemson will be the last one. Clemson's good, and they have a pro in PJ Hall. So I don't think anyone when was the last time Clemson was good at basketball? It's probably been a while.
Well, here's the thing though, Tobias. For me and Clemson, can you keep this up in January and February? I feel like
Sure.
they've had some pretty hot starts with Brad Brownell, like 3 or 4 of the last 5 years. And then, I mean, for sure, last year, at this point, last year, we were saying, oh, yeah, that's a tournament team. And then
Yeah.
the wheels kind of fell off.
Yeah.
And so I think we're
Yeah,
just
dude.
waiting for them to do February and early March, and then I'll believe in it. But they're certainly good. To unpack it a little bit more, here's where I will pat myself on the back, Tobias. I said Chris Beard is a immediate impact guy, and Ole Miss I thought was going to be a fringe bubble team, as in like towards the end of the season we'll be comparing their resume to some other teams. Now, right now, I did not think they'd be a top 25 team,
Mm,
but they are playing some serious ball. Like it does not
yeah.
surprise me, and you know this especially well as a Texas Tech guy. Like Chris Beard, he is an immediate impact. I will turn this program around from day one kind of
Yeah.
guy. That was what I saw in the offseason, and it's come to fruition thus far.
I think what helped him too. You remember he had a couple of guys that put their name in the portal and decided to come back. And he also had a couple of dudes too that were on the fringe. He was convincing them to stay. Then Murray's eligible, Sharp's eligible, Cissay's eligible. That changes the team. Alan Flanagan's been really good for them. Brakefield had a big game the other day. So and then they have a good team. I think that he was able to kind of pick the guys that he wanted to stay, and he brought in some guys that he wanted. And like you said, he is an impact coach. He gets the best out of those players. He coaches them hard, and they love him for him. So it's good to see that Ole Miss is good.
I think there's some pretty solid hoops being played in the states of Mississippi and also South
Hmm.
Carolina. So we highlighted Clemson and also Ole Miss, but I think Mississippi State's off to a really nice year.
Yeah,
They were ranked at one point, I think, and then
Yep.
also the Gamecocks, Lamont Paris, man. Like people forget, and I've been harping on this. Nobody hears or talks about Lamont Paris, but he was
Mm-mm.
a couple minutes away from taking down Illinois, like that Kofi Coburn team when he was at
Yeah.
Chattanooga. And when the whole conversation here was kicked off by you mentioning Oklahoma, certainly surprising for sure. But you look at guys like Lamont Paris and Porter Moser who are at football schools, but you give them a couple years to develop their culture, establish their identity, get their guys, and they're off to pretty solid starts, right? Like multiple games over 500.
Yeah, no, I agree. Then I think some of the guys too, like they have a freshman. So I did a freshman story before the season started. I did my top 24, 25 freshmen. One of the freshmen that they have right now that I like was Colin Murray Bowles. He played at Wasatch last year. He led them in scoring. That kid's like really underrated. He sat out the first month or so. I think he was sick or he had like some type of illness. He's fine now, but that kid's good. You bring in BJ Mack from I think Matt, he's their second leading scorer. Michi Johnson, people remember him. He was the kid that reclassed and went to Ohio State early. He
Mm-hmm.
averages 18. So they were able to bring a couple of pieces in there and add a couple of freshmen, like you said, get his guys, a couple years in the system, and they look good so far. They're 9-1.
Hey, they battled in Clemson too. I think that
Yeah,
was kind of the point where I was like, look, now look, I kind of didn't like the fact that they went down to the wire against ECU, but shoot, even ECU has
yeah,
Bobby Pettiford now, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, to your point at the beginning of this, Tobias, right? Like, we got guys going from Kansas to ECU, like it's
yeah,
probably a smart decision, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm getting playing time.
There is one team, Tobias, that you didn't mention that I was a bit surprised about, and that's BYU. Um,
Yeah,
Now, was
they're
that
good.
just accidental oversight, or are you just not buying BYU yet?
I haven't seen them play yet. They are what 9-1, 10-1.
They
The
are, yeah, they're ten
schedules,
and one.
yeah, schedule. It's been okay. San Diego State, Arizona State, NC State. But I'm looking at a lot of Morgan State, Houston Christian. No disrespect to them. Evansville, Denver, Georgia State. I kind of want to see what they look like in the Big 12. The Big 12 is a beast. I want to see what it looks like. But they're super well coached, and they're always one of those teams. They're always like sneaky good anyway. So I mean, I'm sure they'll be fine. The Big 12 will be a little. It'll be interesting to see how they adjust like their style of play in that league.
Well, what I think is so beneficial and encouraging for Cougar fans is that they perform so well in the out of conference that you've given yourself almost a necessary uh, margin for error in the Big
Yeah.
12, right? Like you can go a game or two above 500, and that'll get you. That should get you in the tournament.
Oh, definitely
A game or
for
two
sure.
above 500 in Big 12 play is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen in recent memory 500 or a game under five. I think some of those teams they were getting in anyway. They were like 9, 10 seed, but they were still getting in. So, yeah, if you go 500 in that league for sure, oh yeah, you have a very good chance to get in for sure.
I was saying the other day though, Tobias, I was like, man, if I was a BYU fan, and I'm hyped to play in the best conference in America, I get all that. But the year we leave, I look over at the West Coast Conference and I see
Bad.
Gonzaga struggling a little bit. They're probably the
Yep.
most vulnerable they've been in the last
Yep.
like 10 years. And then I got St. Mary's, who's a couple games above 500. And if I'm a BYU fan, I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
I know.
I wish I could have just stayed one more year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, saying you feel like St. Mary's struggling. This is probably one of the better Gonzaga teams we've seen, definitely in recent memory. So no, I agree. I would definitely be pissed. Next year, we're talking about now, but next year they have a guy coming back from a mission trip. His name is Colin Chandler. He was like a top 50, 40 kid. That kid's really good. If he's anything from what he was like before the mission trip, I thought that kid was an NBA player, and I thought he should have been in McDonald's All America. That kid's really, really good, and if he's anything like he was, the people they're going to see that kid was unbelievable before when he was in high school. I loved him. I'm excited to see him play next year.
I'm writing that down, man. Where's he out of?
I think he's from Utah somewhere. His name is Colin Chandler.
Okay.
He I'm telling that year his senior I thought he got snubbed. I thought he should have been a McDonald's All American. That kid's good.
Yeah, we'll remember that now. But Utah, or excuse me, BYU, actually the state of Utah.
Yeah,
pretty nice season thus far. The Utes playing well. Utah
yeah,
Valley with the first year without Mark Madsen. Interesting going on there. So, Utah State, not too bad either. So,
yeah.
but BYU for sure, the class of the state. Hey, so I want to pivot now and swing the pendulum the other way. I think, Tobias, a lot of people are going to say Michigan State has been the most disappointing team thus far. And they're going to
Yeah.
say that because there were Final Four expectations, and they're certainly not playing like a Final Four team up until, I guess, Saturday when they just beat the hell
Right.
out of Baylor. But for you, who's the most disappointing team this season?
Michigan, because so I picked them to go to the. I think I picked them to win it all at work. So
Sparty?
you can, yeah, yeah. So you can imagine how I felt when they were just dropping games. Like I feel like every week. That was that was very disappointing. Gonzaga's interesting, but I don't know if this is a problem. They don't have any NBA players. I don't know if they have the biggest difference in the past. They had at least 1, 2 NBA players, if not 3 or 4 some years. So that's not super. But I guess it would probably be Michigan State. Their schedule has been hard. Don't get me wrong, but they've lost some games. I think they won, but it is though. I think they'll be fine. And then maybe this Baylor game was the game to get them, the confidence they needed.
They just need one, man. And there was this argument essentially on Twitter of should we be blaming Michigan State fans for reacting? I don't even know if it's overreacting because even I was saying,
Mm,
look, they don't look good. But I'm not out here saying like this is a lost season. And so Michigan State fans are basically saying, look, if you're trying to say that they're going to turn it around to be a competitive team like they were last year's finish just wasn't good enough for them. I'm not quoting it,
yeah,
but they're basically saying, oh, so we're just, our ceiling is a 7 seed who goes to overtime against a Kansas State and doesn't get to an Elite 8.
yeah,
They don't want that. They want better
yeah,
for the program, but I'm over here saying like Izzo's always going to have you guys competitive. And we saw
yeah,
that against Baylor. So there's like this internal conflict in East Lansing right now, Tobias.
yeah. No, it's. I think they'll be fine. I mean, if anyone I want coaching a group like this, trying to get them back focused is Izzo. I mean, if anyone I want them doing it, but I mean, they have a good team, man. I just think they're too good and too well coached to fail. They may not be a 1 seed, but I still think they're a team that I still won't want to play in the month or 2. I probably won't want to play them. Granted, like I said, maybe this Baylor game was the game to get them refocused because I wasn't expecting that at all.
I was sitting in Gamebridge Arena watching Ball State, Indiana State, and I pop on the ESPN app, and it says they're up 30. Now the ESPN app can be janky sometimes to buy. So I'm looking
Yeah,
at this and I'm like,
for
that's
sure.
wrong. I swipe it up and then I log back in and I was like, oh my god, no, they're really beating down Baylor.
That game was because I think I was at the game, I was at the A&M game. I clicked over, I saw the same thing as you. So they were at like 20. I said, there's no way. Like, there's no way. And so I went to the Hulu, my Hulu Live. Hulu has live sports. I go over there and I click on the game. I said, oh, they're really whooping these dudes. I said, wow, this is, Baylor. I don't think they'll shoot that poorly probably ever again. But I mean, kudos to Michigan State for taking it to them.
I guess you could look at it like, or look at me like I'm being glass half full kind of guy. And this is what happens after years of having no choice but to trust Tom Izzo because this is what he does. But you could argue that Michigan State played pretty well against Duke. They did
Yeah,
play
they
pretty
did.
well against Arizona. Outside of Purdue, I think that was Arizona's toughest test of the season
Yeah, yeah,
in Palm Springs. And then you have this Baylor win. And what my co-host and I always say, Tobias, and I don't know where you land on this. It's you mentioned their schedule, but at some point you got to win some of those games, right? Like
definitely.
I don't like it when people value good losses more so than like
Mm,
actually getting the job done and winning the games. And so they have that now in a huge one, right? Like not just
yeah.
beating number 6, but it was comprehensive.
No, you're right. I mean, you definitely have to win those games. I guess it's just I don't know. Is anyone who's played the hardest? Can you play James Madison first? They're legit. Duke, Butler, who I think they beat. They end up whooping Butler, but Butler they're not bad. Arizona, a good Wisconsin team, and Nebraska, who I guess they're not bad, I guess, but that and then you play Baylor too. So that's a tough schedule. But you're right though. You got to win those games. You're a Final Four national championship contending team. I like to see you win those games. They fought to the end in most of them, but I like to, and some of those games were there. And they're an older team. They're pretty experienced. So you would think they would kind of be able to finish those games out. I think they will going forward.
Right. I think they will going forward as well. And I guess the point that I was making, Tobias, is, for people like me who's going to be saying, just wait, just wait. I'm still holding out.
Yeah,
Like, despite everyone jumping ship, I'm still holding out because it's Izzo, experience group,
yeah,
Tyson Walker, Hogard. And then if they lost to Baylor, it's like, I still don't have any real evidence to be supporting why I'm holding out, but,
yeah.
just blind faith. Now you have that evidence. Now you can see what these guys can do.
Brandon, I think what helps them too, the Big Ten, we always in that conference. It's the Big Ten is good this year. I just don't know. So currently they have what, three ranked teams: Illinois, Wisconsin, Purdue. I think Ohio. I like Ohio State's team. Northwestern isn't bad. Indiana's kind of weird, but they're not bad. Maryland's been disappointing. If I was Michigan State, I kind of like my chances in the league. Maybe not to win it, but I like my chance to get a lot of wins in that league. I do. I think I can beat every team in that league pretty much.
It's still there. And that's the other thing,
Yeah.
Tobias. Like my cutoff date, I feel like this is a therapy session, man. But my
Hmm.
cutoff date for worrying, like seriously worrying about teams, is Valentine's Day. That might be a little
Hmm.
late, but I'm not over here running around with going crazy in December pre-Christmas. The
Yeah.
season's too long. These are
Yeah.
college kids where you string together one or two wins, man. They play with confidence going forward.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think this Baylor thing might turn it around. I think this was the game they needed to, like, oh, we can do this. We're fine. I think this was the game.
I totally agree. So one team I want to mention, and I tweeted this the other day. I'm actually fairly comfortable, Tobias, saying that my most disappointing team is USC. I really thought USC was going to challenge for the Pac-12 title, and this is probably why I was wrong. But man, I thought they were going to challenge for the Pac-12 title. This is nothing on Isaiah Collier, but like I thought that they were going to be a potential top 3 or 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. Right now, they've lost, I think, 4 out of their last 5 to some quality competition, including Auburn and Oklahoma. But it's out, like, judging by your facial reaction, I shouldn't have had those thoughts in the offseason. Huh?
See, and they were ranked really high coming in, and I love Isaiah. I've been watching Isaiah Collier, and he was like 14. He's probably the best passer I've seen with my own two eyes. I love that kid. Everything about him, great kid. Boogie Ellis is legit. Kobe Johnson's good. Not a lot of left. No, not a lot of left. That's there. That's formidable. Like, because I've watched him play a few times. There are games literally where Collier and Boogie they'll score a 75 point. Okay, the Gonzaga game they scored 76 points. Collier and Ellis they represented between scoring and assisting like 60 or like 55. Can't win that way. Cannot win. And this is probably the best the Pac-12 is going to be in probably a decade. Not going to be able to win games like that. And I think what's hurt them in the past is they generally have a NBA big. The Mobleys have been there. They've had good NBA bigs in the past. I don't know if they have one right now, and they're relying so much on Collier and Boogie. And I was trying to tell people, like, I don't know if a freshman in the country has a tougher job than Collier, because the margin for error for him is so small that, like, he's going to play the whole game. If he doesn't score 17 to 20 points a game with 5 or 6, they're going to lose every game. That's just how it has to be. So if he's ever off, they're going to lose.
Yeah. And I'm looking at their schedule as well. Some of the dudes he's got to go up against, right? Or at least match up in the backcourt. We start with Tyler Perry at Kansas State. They did end up winning that game. Um, I mean, you look at Gonzaga and Nemhard, Auburn. I mean, I don't know if Katie Johnson's starting, but Aiden Holloway, like
Yeah.
it's been. I'm not. I think Isaiah Collier has played really well, but you're right. I think what I may have put too much stock. I don't want to make it sound like they're coming up short. I just think I didn't think that this much was going to be falling on the shoulders
Mm.
of Collier and Boogie. And I did think, a guy like Vincey with Chuckwu would step up a little bit more. And he's battled some health issues in the past.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
know that, but USC has, for me at least, has just been super puzzling. And right now they don't look like. There was a time, Tobias, where the conversation was they're going to challenge, or can they challenge Arizona for a Pac-12 title?
yeah,
Man, I think they're worse than Colorado and Utah and some of the
yeah.
likes there.
Because some people had them winning it. Some of them
Oh
they
yeah.
have them winning the Pac-12. So yeah, I mean, outside of those three, and they have some dudes that they're like, okay, like Vincent, he didn't play a lot last year. Have the heart thing. Because Johnny Wright didn't play a ton last year. Arlington Page, who I love, he's a freshman. They're playing a lot of younger guys, or guys whose roles pretty much changed overnight. Like Kajani goes from not really playing to like, oh, we need you to play like 18 minutes a game. Vincent goes from you didn't play hardly at all last year to like you're one of our starting bigs. So I think the role change has definitely been hard, but they need some of those other guys to be able to contribute more. Like I said, your two best players, they're putting up basically 60 a game for you in points and assists, and y'all are only giving them 15 more points. You're not going to win like that. And especially in a league where they generally don't play defense anyway, and they're scoring in the 80s consistently, you're not going to be able to win games like that.
Yeah, it's funny again, Tobias, when we were chatting back in May, I think Bronny had just made his decision that
Yeah,
he was going to USC, or he had narrowed it down. I'm not sure, but I
yeah,
remember vividly talking about that. And actually a lot has happened as it relates to Bronny and his health. And it's so good to see him
yeah,
back out there. So, I'm hoping, honestly, I think it would be such a cool story if Bronny, and he needs time to continue to evolve
yeah,
and adapt to the game. But how cool would it be if he was like a spark plug
yeah.
for
That'd be
this
cool.
USC team? Hey,
Yeah,
you mentioned Memphis a little bit ago, Tobias, and I love
yeah.
that. That's why I had you on, man, to really gas up my
Mhm.
opinions as well. And we're in lockstep. I said before the season, and this was one of my bolder claims, that Memphis was going to win the AAC over FAU.
Mm,
I don't think it's that far fetched as we sit here today. I feel like the numbers folks and the analytics folks, they love Memphis right now. And FAU has a loss to Bryant. They got to play Arizona upcoming, which Arizona's a very tough team, but FAU and Miami for that matter, Tobias, I had said I think the South Florida schools are ranked coming into the season just a little high. Not that they're bad, but I think they're a bit overvalued. But Memphis right now is playing so well. David Jones is just
yeah,
leading them in damn near everything. Javon Quinterly's a stud veteran. What makes Memphis so good, and why are they having this type of season? Especially, hey man, we look at a Jordan Brown. That could be a cause for tumult, which is we've seen something like that at Kansas State, which we talked about with Tomlin, who's no longer there. Jordan Brown no longer there. Train just keeps rolling though for the Tigers.
Isn't Tomlin's going to
That's right.
Memphis?
Yeah, that's also
He's
true.
just so I'm between me and you. I think he's better than Jordan Brunson. In my opinion, they got better. In my opinion, so you hate to lose a player, and Brown's been solid like 6-4 again. You hate to see whatever happens happen, but we got a NBA player. Oh, I'm more than okay with that for sure. He fits that. He fits exactly what they need him to do anyway. So I'm sure they're thrilled about that. But they're legit. I mean, I think they're tough. I think they're tough as hell. I think they're just super tough. You're starting to see Penny's like mold of what he's been trying to do. In the past they kind of underachieved despite some of the talent they may or may not have had. But I think this is a group. I think they fit really, really well together. They have those three guards. They kind of present like a different type of attacking style. When you can put three guards on the floor at the same time, like an offensive scorer, it's hard to stop that. Most teams maybe only have two perimeter defenders. They have three guys that you can legit score. Then you'll sub out and put in like a Jaquan Walton or something like that. I think they're legit.
I think people are forgetting that Memphis had their hearts ripped out against FAU. So that first game
Mm,
when they play the Owls is going to be hyped as hell. And you mentioned
yeah,
Penny, Tobias. I find him to be a fascinating lightning rod almost. And so I want to get your thoughts on this. I personally think people have just run with a narrative that Penny Hardaway isn't a good coach. And I think it's
yeah,
so foolish and ridiculous because he's been to the tournament a couple times. Like I said, last year, he gave FAU their best test. Of course, until SDSU, when he
Yeah,
gave a Final Four team their best test in the opening
yeah,
round. I just think people love to hate on a guy like Penny Hardaway because they say, oh, he brought in James Wiseman. And it's like, well, James Wiseman only played like 4 games or whatever it was.
yeah,
He didn't get to have a full season with James Wiseman. I think Penny Hardaway actually does a pretty solid job. And I think in addition to that, there's this, well, he's not John Calipari. John Calipari is a Hall of Famer, man. There's not a lot of John
yeah.
Caliparis running around. What's your thoughts on Penny and his perception, I guess?
I think too, like you said, he's not John Calipari, and John's like what 20 years older than him, if not older. He's been around. He's been around a long time. He's been in the NBA, came back, had some ups and downs. So for sure, I think that I think there was an adjustment period. He's learned. He was literally learning how to be a college basketball coach. He came from being a player to doing Nike stuff, and he's coaching high school to now doing this. I think there had to be an adjustment period where he was learning, and I think some of it was because he was bringing in some top ranked kids, and some of them kind of got better when they left. Boogie left. He might be an All American. Lester is in the NBA now. Ball left, so I think they were kind of giving him a hard time about that, but I think we're starting to see him kind of come into his own as a coach, and I think he's more successful right now.
Yeah. It's just interesting. And I was actually one of those guys, Tobias. I think a couple of years back, it kind of made me reevaluate, how I'm approaching and looking at these coaches and these programs, because everyone obviously just wants a Final Four after Final Four after Final Four. And then you take a step back and you look at maybe some of the resources and you look at the competition and transfers and things of that nature. And it's like, Penny's actually doing a pretty solid job. And I think he's got one of his best teams in Memphis going forward.
Yeah.
I'm riding the Tiger. But I will say this though, their uniform combination and their uniforms have just gone drastically downhill ever since the D Rose days, man. I mean, they got the Tiger stripes. It looks like garbage. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess they traded in players for jerseys. I guess they figured, we'll just get the jerseys and get the good players and sacrifice the jerseys.
Oh man. Speaking of guys like Derrick Rose and great point guard play, we got 2 of the best in the country this year representing UConn and Purdue. Tobias, I was at the Arizona Purdue game, and I swear to God, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer were the second coming of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. You look at a guy like Tristen Newton over at UConn, man, and Bill Self said this when they played in Kansas. He said Tristen Newton was the best player on the court. Everyone knew it. These guys are absolute studs right now. Tristen Newton is averaging 16, 7, and 6, shooting 47%. Braden Smith's averaging 14, 5, and 7, shooting damn near 50%. So I come to you, sir, hat in hand. Who would you rather have?
Gonna pick Newton, man. He's a champion. Gotta go with the win. I mean, what he did in that championship game was crazy. No one. I had knew who he was because he's from Texas. He's from El Paso. I had heard of him. He was at East Carolina, and I was at the game, and I swear to you, it was like every time he shot the ball, I thought it was going in, and it was going in the majority of the time. And he's doing that now. Like every time I need a big shot or a big play, he's just doing it. And, he's had to do it without Stephon Castle, who I love, who's missed a good part of the season. He's back now with the knee injury, but he's the engine that gets them going. He's been just super consistent game in and game out.
Between you and me, as quiet as it's kept, I think UConn is the best team of the country right now. I'm not saying this is going out on a limb. And I think they should actually be ranked 3rd, right? I think Purdue has a resume worthy of 1. You can't put UConn over Kansas. They literally lost to them. But then there, I would put UConn. And like Houston's amazing. I think Arizona should be around 4 or 5. But UConn right now, just the personnel, and if I'll tie this back to Tristen Newton, right? Like coming into the season, everyone wanted to talk about Klingon and Steph Castle, who's a wonderful freshman. And it's almost as if people did forget that the guy coming back who had a career game in the title game is now probably going to be an All-American. And do we realize that Tristen Newton's like, it seems like he's flirting with a triple-double every night.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, no, he's like I said, he kind of came out of nowhere, this unsung hero type of thing. And I was interested to see, was that championship game a flash in the pan, his one shining moment? Not at all. He's got better. He's literally gotten better. And he, like I said, he's the engine that gets them going. And I don't think you can find a better like leader, floor general type of player in the country right now than him.
Yeah, me neither. So on the flip side, though, Braden Smith, obviously a wonderful player, and I appreciate you
Yeah, for
actually
sure,
answering, not giving me
definitely.
the straddling the fence type of deal. But Braden Smith, Tobias, I think there's a bigger question or topic at hand, and that is we saw Braden Smith as a freshman last year. Same thing with Fletcher Lawyer, and they lose to FDU. And I
Yep.
think a lot of people were like, "Books written. That's it. That's it. That we've seen their ceiling." It's very clear that we didn't have not seen their ceiling. Like
Yeah.
Fletcher Lawyer, I think had 30 plus against Tennessee earlier
Hmm.
earlier this season. He showed out against Arizona, but Braden Smith, why do we think we've put a cap on some of these guys after just 1 year of college basketball? Because we see how potent he really is now.
Maybe I think too after that FDU loss in this in recent memory, people probably didn't think they were a tough. They were like a tough team. They probably thought they were kind of soft. That's not Fletcher Lawyer at all. He's super tough. He's not afraid, get in someone's face, talk crap to whoever it is. So I think that's kind of what it's been. And then after you lose to FDU, kind of like Virginia when they lost to UMBC, it's like we seen that they're done. They come back the next year, they win the championship. I don't know if that'll be Purdue this year. They definitely have just as good a chance as any, but he brings a toughness to that team that people weren't expecting. And he's a great player. I mean, like I said, they have just as good a chance as any to win it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be okay, obviously, with people saying they're the favorite right now because their resume, like I said, is just it's been pretty absurd thus far. Like the likes of Tennessee, Bama, Arizona. Uh, I mean, crazy sport this is. We got Northwestern knocking them off, and they lose to Chicago
Yeah,
State.
yeah,
Washington beat Gonzaga, and they just went to double overtime with Seattle. I mean, I guess that's why we love this silly sport, right?
yeah, definitely.
Hey, Tobias, we were talking about guards. I want to talk about this other one. All right, Donovan Dent. I have what's called the foxhole, and it's a foxhole, or it's a foxhole that I want certain point guards in. Last year, as the season evolved, I was like, I want DeJuan Harris, I want Marquise Noel, and I want AJ Hogard. This resets every year. All right, so this year I got Tristen Newton in there, and I got the kid from Colorado State, Isaiah Stevens.
Stevens.
Man, I think I got to put Donovan Denton there. He is electric for New Mexico.
Yeah, no, that kid's really good. And that little reverse layup he did the other day, that was just a sick play. But 17 and 6.6 assists. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. New Mexico's good. They're another team I would not want to play them. But they have dudes, and I know we were talking about this earlier, but they have a couple of freshmen on their team. JT Topper, he's a Dallas kid, and True Washington. Those kids were top 130 kids when mid major. They both had high major offers. JT Toppin's getting NBA looks now. So goes back to my point from earlier that the mid major thing isn't a bad thing. He's averaging like Toppin's averaging 13 and 7. Donovan is averaging 17 and 6. Donovan will be a pro. He'll be a pro. These are mid major kids. So, but yeah, then I mean, like you said, on those list of guards, that's an exceptional list of guards. He definitely needs to be on that list.
Man, the game winner just shot out of a cannon against your rival in
Yeah,
New Mexico State. And you know what? Real quick, I want to credit New Mexico State because uh, just a disaster of a program and season last year, and now they're I think 5-7, which people
yeah,
laugh at that, but that's impressive. And they took their rivals down to the wire, right? Like it's going to take a lot of time to get
yeah,
back to the days of Chris Jans, but I thought it was an impressive fight. But Donovan Dent, New Mexico, they are fun. I think they've been doing this the last couple games without Jamal Mashburn Jr.
yeah,
Right,
yep,
like Jalen House is playing well. They are so much fun. But I think it's so neat that Donovan Dent's favorite player is Kyrie Irving, and then
mm,
with that finish,
yeah, for
it
sure. That
was
was
like
cool.
that was Kyrie Irving esque.
Yeah, he was definitely was.
And they got some guys over in from Iona, right? Like father, like son. Um,
Hmm.
I think Isaac Machilla is over there, and
Yeah,
then
yep,
so they're accustomed to winning, right? Like Iona's been a really good program
yeah,
last few years. So I really and you know what? You're more plugged in than me, but New Mexico is probably one of those mid majors that operates like a high major, I would assume.
yeah. They are for sure. Then you've been people. And I forget. Jamal Baker, I don't even know how he has eligibility left, but he's
Bruh.
still there, and he's giving them 7.5 points a game. He was a top 72 kid. Went to Kentucky his first couple of years, so good for New Mexico. Good
Hey,
for
man.
them. I forgot he was over there. That was he's like a 2017 grad. Like he's 7 years, so good for
He
him.
made a stop. He made a stop at Arizona, and I promise you, when I was looking over rosters this year, and who do whatever you want, man. Like it's not my decision to be or choice to be like you should stay, you should go. But I was looking at the roster and I was like, that cannot be that Jamal Baker is still playing college basketball. But he's been
Yeah,
impactful.
he's been impactful for them. Good play. He's been experienced. He's nothing he hasn't seen. He'll be a contributor when they make it to the tournament too.
Yeah, I mean, and New Mexico, the Pit, it's one of the best atmospheres in college basketball. That is
Yeah,
a school that I want to see get back on top. I mean, they're not the only Mountain West school. I want to see UNLV good. I've never seen them
yeah,
good in my entire damn life. And I just want to like evoke memories of
yeah,
the Tark days, things like that. And then there was another, I mean, Louisville, good Lord. Like I've seen them great, but
yeah,
my God, Louisville.
yeah. They're not great to say it politely. They got to get some. They have a lot of things a lot of things they got to fix internally from the top down, and they'll fix it. It's just disappointing because college basketball is better when they're good. So they've been struggling the last couple of years. They don't on paper they're not awful. They just kind of got to figure some things out. I mean, they have 7, 8 top 100 kids on the roster. You think they'd be a little bit better? It was interesting because they played Texas so well. I was like, you know what? Maybe they're not awful. Maybe they're not that bad, but they're bad, and they're pretty bad. So it'll be interesting to see how what they do maybe in the next couple of weeks. Maybe there's off season players coming in and out, coaches, coaching change, maybe not. We'll be interested to see what they do with that.
It's that pivotal question that you ask yourself after one of those games. Like Max Azmus hits the game winner, and you start immediately saying to yourself, is this more about Louisville or is it more about Texas? And I think we found out
Yeah,
it might be a little bit more about Texas. Like they're still ranked top 20, but I think people were expecting maybe an ascension at this point. Maybe people were thinking the
yeah,
same thing with Bama, where they both started like top 25 and you figured they just continue to rack up wins, as opposed to Louisville, where you try and say like, let's take something from this. This is encouraging. And then you lose to both DePaul and Arkansas State at home, I think
yeah.
it was.
DePaul, Arkansas State. You lose to Chattanooga. Bellarmine gives you everything you can handle.
That's like a
MVC,
rivalry down there in Louisville now. Like,
yeah,
because Bellarmine's
yeah,
won.
yeah. They won. They don't. They run most efficient offense. They don't dribble, and they're just super effective.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, here's to hoping Louisville gets it right. Tobias, I'm going to get you out of here just on this last little topic. Upcoming games this week. Obviously, we got a full 2024 to look ahead to, but holiday week, Christmas week. What are you looking forward to the most? Where do you plan on heading out to this season as well, and as well as what you're watching?
Well, tomorrow that Virginia Memphis game is going to be great. That's going to be a really really good game. I'm sorry to see how they look. I want to see what Louisville looks like when they play Kentucky. That's a big rivalry game. I'm sure there's going to be more Kentucky fans in the K Yum Center than Louisville fans, but maybe they'll make it interesting. I don't know. Hopefully, because those games are fun. Baylor plays Duke on Wednesday. That's going to be a big game. So I'm excited to see. We have some good hoops coming up. Creighton, Villanova, because the Big East is about to start. North Carolina, Oklahoma. So yeah, I'm excited to see a couple of those.
Big week for Arizona as well. If you're supposed to be, for me, Tobias, if you're going to be a championship level contender, when you get knocked down by a very, very good team in Purdue, when you get knocked down, I want to see how you respond, and whether that's a win by one or two. But I feel like I'd rather see a comprehensive butt whooping, right? So we
Mm,
saw Arizona do that in Tucson against Wisconsin, right? A 23-24 ranked team. They got Bama and Phoenix, and they're different teams, but I kind of want to see what happens with Arizona there. And then after that, FAU. Like, can
mm,
they escape this week after losing a hard fought game against Purdue? Like, how are you handicapping both of those games with Bama and FAU? Because these are 3 straight very difficult games.
Oh yeah, for sure. You want to be able to go into the break, going into Pac-12 play on a solid. Obviously you love to go undefeated, but if you go 2-1 against them, that's not bad. You don't want to go 1-2 or over. You got to go into Pac-12 play. Coming out of Christmas break, feeling good about yourself, going into a tough league play.
Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts there. So I'll be looking forward to a lot of great games. Tobias, what's going on for the holidays, man? Are you able to see some friends, family? Are you grinding? I mean, you're one of the hardest working men in the business, but I hope you're able to get some downtime.
Yeah, I'll be doing both. I might be, opening presents and watching the game with my other hand. Who knows? But there's some good high school games, some good high school stuff out here, and I'll be trying to go to some games. Definitely New Year, trying to travel a little bit more. I've been traveling a lot this past end of this year, so I want to keep that going in the new year. Want to go catch some games in person for sure.
There you go. I had Chris Walker on from CBS Sports Network a couple of
Mm,
weeks ago, or last episode, I should say. And I did ask him, and I'm going to ask you this: are you an eggnog guy?
I am not an eggnog guy. I
Oh
am not.
man,
Are you?
hell yeah!
It,
What is it?
I just I'm a very picky eater, super picky, and texture and how it physically looks really, really matters to me. So when I see it, like that doesn't look appealing to me. I can't. There's no way I can drink that. So I kind of, and matter of fact, I don't even know the last time I've seen someone my own too, seen someone drink eggnog. They do kind of pass. You got that. You can pass that away somewhere. I don't want to drink that.
I can appreciate that, honestly. Like, presentation matters. It's not the prettiest, and when it
Yeah.
comes out of the carton, it's like it takes a minute. It's
Yeah,
thick. Yeah,
yeah. Like I can't. I can't. Like it's not pleasant looking at all. There's no way I can drink it. My dad. I think my dad drinks. He tries to get me there. I'm like, dude. There's no way, man. There's
out
no
on
way.
it. Uh, hey, I mean, you're a Texans fan, right? I remember.
I'm not a Texans fan. I like what they're doing though. Big Stroud, super well. I like I'm not a Texans fan though.
Who's your team again? Remind me.
I have two teams and they're awful. I'm a Steelers fan and a Chargers fan, so I'm not
Steelers and
very happy
Chargers.
with it.
So when I was down in Indianapolis, I should have done my research, but I completely spaced on the fact that this is the time of year where NFL plays on Saturday. And I
Yeah,
get into Indianapolis and I'm like, damn, it is packed. Like, I know it's Arizona, Purdue, but man, there are people showing out. And I see Steelers and Colts jerseys everywhere,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
Steelers travel. And I was like, oh my God. And these games, like that game kicked and Arizona, Purdue tipped at the
yeah.
exact same time.
Yeah, no, it's no Steelers fan. We have some of the best fans in the world. They faithfully travel, even if they're bad. They will faithfully travel to go support their team. Not I respect it. We're just not bad. We're just not very good. We got some stuff we got to fix.
That's right. What are you thinking about the Dame situation there in Milwaukee? I know you're a Dame guy. Everything looking all right?
Everything's looking okay. I want to see. They're still learning how to play. I mean, they're 19-7. They're the second best record in the East. So I like what they're doing so far. I want to see what he look like playoff time. I still think depth is going to be an issue for them. So far, it hasn't been, but it's regular season. But I think depth at the moment is going to be an issue. But if they can maybe they can make a trade, in the next couple of weeks, maybe that'll help. I think they have to add one more thing because the Dame trade, I get you're getting Dame, but they got they got kind of fleeced in that deal. You get Dame, and I love Dame, but you couldn't have kept Grayson Allen or one of those other guys, or maybe taking someone back. But that's just me.
I'm not one of these. I hate when old heads, because it's usually old heads that are
Yeah,
like, nobody plays defense. Nobody plays defense in the NBA. And it's like, I mean, just the offensive skill of these guys is insane.
yeah,
But I do think the Bucks need to improve their defense.
yeah,
I
for
don't I
sure.
don't know if they can play defense very well right now.
Yeah, and the old heads, they talk about the defense thing. I mean, back then they didn't really play defense either. It was tackling. It was football on, and they weren't. I hate arguing with old heads about this all the time. I mean, they're soft. I'm like, were you soft or were you guys like disturbed? Y'all were tackling each other, and I was like, the NBA, they kind of figured out, you know what? Our league's better when our players are healthy and not concussed every week. So we're gonna call these fouls instead of letting this play on, and they should. No one wants to see their player missing 15 games because he was taken out of the air by whoever. So yeah,
Yeah, that's real defense, Tobias. Real hoop. You wouldn't get it. That's what we
Yeah,
got.
for sure. Yeah, that's they love. Back in my day, no one cares about that. Like this was 30 years ago, So
So good. Tobias, you are the best, man. Thank you so much for jumping on. Where can we follow your work? Tell us all outlets that we need to follow you on.
you can follow me on Twitter at Tobias_Bass. That's TOBIAS_ Bass like the fish. Um, I'm still tinkering with it, but I'm gonna start doing Twitter Spaces every Wednesday. Me and one of my mentors going to do a Twitter Space every weekend, talking about or every Wednesday, talking about college hoop, grassroots recruiting, etc. And then I'm not a TikTok person. I think TikTok's kind of stupid. I feel like I sound like I'm getting old. I'm only 27, but I'm probably gonna start trying to do some stuff on TikTok. So I think I'm gonna. My little sister's like, you should do a TikTok. I'm like, okay, whatever. I think I'll probably start doing some content on there as well.
Yeah, look, I'm not a TikTok guy either. My wife is, but
Mm,
she told me like you should start posting clips on TikTok. I always post clips on Twitter. So
mm,
I've got a show's TikTok. I'm gonna
okay.
cut up some clips here, Tobias, and I mean I'll send them out. They're not gonna be fun or funny, I don't think. It's just
Yeah,
straight up what you've been telling me. But yeah, man, I'm on TikTok, so I'll be your friend if you want
for sure.
a first
Definitely.
friend. All right.
No, that definitely. I may put some stuff on there. So I don't. We'll see. I'll probably do some stuff on there too.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Well, hey, thank you so much again for spending some time. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Enjoy the hoops. And we'll catch you next time here. All right. Thank you, Tobias.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right.